After months of hard work by the teams and drivers and anticipation by the fans, the Daytona 500 is finally upon us. And after Thursday's duels, we now know the starting lineup for Sunday's 65th running of the Great American Race.
42 cars for 40 slots, and we've had to say goodbye to two hardworking teams and drivers. But for everyone else, the spoils of victory for the granddaddy of them all are still up for grabs. And since the offseason always brings change, we figured what better way to recap some of the movers and shakers this offseason than by highlighting the drivers who have made the Great American Race in 2023.
And if you're a new NASCAR fan looking for a driver to root for, or someone who knows nothing about NASCAR and is looking to throw down a crazy bet, this video might be of some assistance to you as well. With that said, this is the starting grid before any penalties are assessed on Sunday, so things will change a little bit before the cars hit the track for the 200-lap extravaganza. Now, going from the back to the front, here is the starting grid for the 65th running of the Daytona 500 here on turn 200.
Let's kick things off with the driver who is starting shotgun on the field for the 2023 Daytona 500. Of all the left field announcements, they had to build another ballpark in left field and then take this announcement out of that left field. But certified madman Travis Pastrana, he did it. He is in the field for the Daytona 500, and I cannot believe it. Pastrana will be making his first Cup Series start, and it comes in the Great American Race for 2311, driving the number 67. He had 4 top 10s in his brief Xfinity Series career, and one of those came at Daytona a full 10 years before he raced into the Daytona 500. Also, another fun fact, this is the first start for the number 67 on a car since Boris Said drove the number at Watkins Glen in 2002.
Just to his inside on row 20, he's back in the Daytona 500 for the first time in 3 years, and he had to earn it. It's the 7-time series champion back from retirement, Jimmy Johnson. Not only is Jimmy one of 3 7-time series champions, he is also a 2-time winner of the Daytona 500, and he'll be looking to join Denny Hamlin as a 3-time champion at the end of the day on Sunday. Jimmy is driving part-time this season after his IndyCar career didn't go the way he had hoped, but a great way to make up for it would be to carry his new team on his shoulders to victory lane in the Daytona 500.
Starting on the outside of row 19. Making his first career Cup Series start from sunny Las Vegas, Nevada, it's Riley Herbst driving the Sunny D number 15 Ford Mustang for Rick Ware Racing. The numbers for Herbst have been improving pretty consistently over the last season in the Xfinity Series. Although he is yet to go to victory lane in Xfinity, he has certainly knocked on the door a few times, including here at Daytona. He may not be in the strongest car on the grid, but it's Daytona, so anything can happen.
Back in the 37th starting spot, another driver with a ride swap heading into 2023, it's Ty Dillon. Of course, the younger brother of Austin, but Ty had some high points and some low points in 2022 before being ousted for Noah Gragson. He's found a home at Spire Motorsports and is looking to finally get back on the right path with a strong 500 performance.
In 36th, the 2 biggest offseason moves revolved around this 8 car. Out goes Tyler Reddick, and in comes the 2-time series champion Kyle Busch, the most polarizing driver in the NASCAR Cup Series since Dale Earnhardt. Rowdy Busch is the most prolific active driver who has yet to capture the Daytona 500. He finished a relatively distant second, all things considered, to his teammate Denny Hamlin in 2019, but outside of that, his 500 luck hasn't been all that swell. With only 2 superspeedway victories to his name in the Cup Series, plate racing has never really been Rowdy's forte. But with a new team, a new number, and still more to prove, it may finally be Kyle Busch's year to hoist the hardware at Daytona, if only so he'll stop getting asked if he thinks it's his year to hoist the hardware at Daytona.
To his inside in 35th, Cody Ware. His Daytona 500 results have steadily improved over his 3 starts. A P17 finish in last year's 500 was nothing compared to his August race at Daytona, as he won some people with crazy parlays a lot of money with a 6th place finish in that race, which is the best of his career so far in the Cup Series. Again, you can never say never here in the 500.
On the outside of row 17, the Daytona 500 is always likely to throw in a few surprises, and one of those this time around is IndyCar driver Connor Daly, driving for the money team. Daly makes the field for his first Daytona 500 for what will be his 2nd career Cup Series start. He finished 34th at the Charlotte Roval last time we saw him. Connor is no stranger to high speeds and high danger, so he may feel right at home in Daytona on Sunday.
In the 33rd starting position, one of the 2 full-time rookies on the grid for the 500 is the reigning Xfinity Series champion, Ty Gibbs. Unlike his rookie counterpart, Noah Gragson, this will be Ty Gibbs' first Daytona 500. While he only spent 1 full season in Xfinity, Gibbs did a pretty good job on the super speedways, including grabbing the first Xfinity win at the New Atlanta. He was one of the lowest running drivers who actually finished the Cup Series race at Daytona in August, scoring a 13th place finish.
Starting in 32nd, making his 5th career Daytona 500 start, it's owner-driver BJ McLeod. BJ and Live Fast Motorsports usually aren't the ones to rock the boat too much, but they did make quite a bit of noise at Daytona last August when BJ took the underfunded 78 car to a P7 finish at the World Center of Racing, which is his best career Cup Series finish. He's hoping to replicate that magic again this weekend, where he has yet to crack the top 20 in his 4 career Daytona 500 attempts.
On the inside of row 16, the absolute wild card of superspeedway racing, it's Olive Branch, Mississippi's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. It seems like forever ago when Stenhouse grabbed wins at Daytona and Talladega in the same season, but I'm sure it's felt longer for Stenhouse. With every NASCAR fan feeling one way or the other about how he races, he is unquestionably one driver every single person is watching for at every point through the race. The 500 hasn't been kind to Ricky, though. He hasn't had a top 10 in the Great American Race since 2014.
Rounding out the top 30 starters in the field, it was a great sophomore season for Chase Briscoe in 2022. The Indiana driver became the 200th different driver in history to win a NASCAR Cup Series points race with his first career win at Phoenix, and he finished 9th overall in points. Now, with a contract extension bagged, it's time for some big moves on the track again for Reddit's favorite driver. He has some decent results in his first 2 Daytona 500 starts, a quiet 19th place in 2021, and a podium in last year's race, finishing P3.
In 29th, he's back! It's finally dinger time again in the Cup Series. AJ Allmendinger wears his heart on his sleeve when it comes to super speedway racing. Well, he hates it. But that doesn't mean that he isn't good at it. In his last 2 seasons in the Xfinity Series, he has finishes of 2nd, 3rd, and 5th at Daytona and a win at Talladega. That doesn't sound like a man who hates super speedway racing to me. He hasn't started a Daytona 500 since 2018, but he has 3 top 10s in the event, with 2 of those being podiums.
Outside of row number 14, one of the perennial super speedway sleepers is Winnemac, Indiana's Justin Haley, back for his 2nd full-time Cup Series season. Yes, his lone Cup Series victory came at what was a rain-shortened race at Daytona in 2019, but it would be hard to deny that Haley doesn't have some serious super speedway chops. In a twist of irony, he was battling for the lead when rain wiped out the entire field at Daytona last August. Haley has 4 wins in super speedway racing and Xfinity, and has his teammate / kind of his dad, not really, but kind of, on the battlefield with him at Daytona this year to now give him a little bit more help on track.
Starting in lucky spot number 27, The most recent driver to pull into victory lane at Daytona is welcome North Carolina's Austin Dillon. Driving the famed and feared number 3 for Richard Childress Racing, Austin Dillon grabbed his 4th career victory in the August race at Daytona last year. He also was victorious in the 2018 running of the Great American Race, grabbing the win in fittingly controversial fashion. His only other top 5 finish in the 500 was a bronze medal in 2021.
We go now to 26th. A lot of attention will be put towards this man on Sunday as he makes his first career points start with 2311 Racing, and that is Tyler Reddick. After the contentious departure from RCR, he is looking to be the next big star for Toyota in the Cup Series. Not a stellar Daytona 500 track record for Reddick, but he did push his then teammate Austin Dillon to the win at Daytona last time we were here, so he knows how to play a little defense.
Into the top 25 starters now. Teammate to the hot young rookie Noah Gragson is a driver who knows how to get it done here at Daytona, Eric Jones. That Jones boy grabbed his first career win at Daytona in the summer of 2018 and is looking to capitalize on some late season momentum after winning the Southern 500 late last year. Jones has a 3rd place finish in the 500 in 2019, but 4 of his other 5 finishes are outside of the top 25.
On the outside of row number 12, the only driver born out of the United States in this year's running of the Daytona 500 is Daniel Suarez. Daniel finally got over the hump and got that first win last season, and a lot of fans are expecting more to come this time. Suarez had a few good super speedway runs in his career, but none of those have come in the Daytona 500. His numbers have been pretty poor in his 6 attempts and 5 starts, with his 18th place finish last year by far being his best. Let's hope Suarez turns it around this weekend for Trackhouse Racing.
In the 23rd starting spot, last season's cult icon, Ross Chastain. Although he didn't walk away with the championship, the Hail Melon was instantly immortalized as one of the all-time great moves in NASCAR. And it topped off a career year for Chastain, which included 2 wins and a berth in the championship 4. He may not be at the top of everyone's watch list for the super speedways, but keep in mind that one of those 2 wins came at Talladega. His Daytona 500 career has been very back and forth, with 4 starts resulting in 2 top 10s and 2 DNFs.
Shout out to Ward Burton as we go now to the 22nd starter. The other rookie on the grid for this year's 500 is fan sensation Noah Gragson. He had 8 wins in the Xfinity Series last year, and although he failed to secure the title, he brings a lot of anticipation with him into the cockpit of the Legacy Motor Club number 42. In his 15 Cup starts last year, he had a best finish of 11th.
And starting in 21st, it's the driver at Hendrick Motorsports who has had the least amount of luck in the Daytona 500 so far, William Byron. Slick Bill is coming off his best season yet after a 2-win P6 points finish in 2022. But looking at his Daytona 500 record, it's easy to write him off. He has no finishes inside of the top 20 as of yet, but Byron got his first career win in the August race at Daytona in 2020, and he won the first race at the new configuration of Atlanta, so there may be hope yet for the fans of the 24.
Now, here are the top 20 starters in the 2023 Daytona 500. After a year off from full-time Cup Series competition, Berlin, Connecticut's Ryan Preece is not only back in the Cup Series, but in the best position of his career, getting ready to drive his first points-paying Cup race for Stewart-Haas Racing. While most people don't think of Preece as a super speedway guy, his 2 best career finishes have come at Daytona and Talladega. And in his 3 previous 500 starts, he has 2 top 10s. Ryan Preece could be looking to go big early in his nice new ride.
3 drivers have won the Daytona 500 after starting 19th. This gentleman is looking to join them. After his Daytona 500 debut didn't go to plan last season, Harrison Burton is back for more with the famed Wood brothers in their iconic number 21. Burton was vying for the lead last season when he became the first driver to go upside down in the Gen 7 car. That wasn't the distinction he wanted to walk out of Daytona with. Only 2 top 10 finishes for Burton in his rookie season, but one of them did come at the summer race at the new Atlanta. Maybe Burton could jumpstart start his sophomore season with another great 500 run for the Wood brothers.
Rolling off P18, arguably the greatest modern-era Daytona 500 performer, Chesterfield, Virginia's Denny Hamlin. While a lot of the series champions have been unable to capture the Daytona 500 in recent years, it's been the opposite problem for Denny. He's won the 500 in 2016 and back-to-back in 2019 and 2020, and has 5 more top 5s in the Great American Race. And while he would love to win his 4th Daytona 500 on Sunday and join Cale Yarborough second on the all-time Daytona 500 win list, I'm sure he would love it more if he were able to walk away with the championship in 40 weeks.
And on the inside of row number 9, another driver who had to work for it but will be rewarded with his first crack at the Daytona 500. It is the reigning Craftsman Truck Series champion, Zane Smith. Zane has been on the up and up in the fans' eyes for some time now, so it will be very exciting to see him in the field for the Great American Race. On top of winning the title last season, he also won the season opener at Daytona in the Truck Series last year. He also made an emergency fill-in start in the Cup Series for Chris Buescher last season at Gateway and did a pretty good job, all things considered. And you know, making your second career start in the Daytona 500 works out well for some people.
In the 16th starting spot, the winner of the Busch Clash at the Coliseum and another champion driver who has yet to taste victory in the Daytona 500, Martin Truex Jr. The 2017 Series champion was the first victim of Denny Hamlin's reign of terror in 2016 by 10 1/1000ths of a second, which is the closest margin of victory in Daytona 500 history. But outside of this brush with greatness, his Daytona 500 track record is average at best, adding just an additional 2 top 10 finishes in his 18 total 500 starts. Notably, Truex may be one of the greatest drivers ever who has failed to win in a super speedway, scoring no victories at Daytona or Talladega. Sunday may change that for MTJ.
And now, into the top 15 we go. Last year's runner-up is Mobile, Alabama's Bubba Wallace. Despite the game of musical cars that 2311 had during the playoffs, as well as Bubba's suspension, Bubba ran pretty well in the back half of 2022, grabbing his second career win at Kansas. Of drivers with at least 4 starts at Daytona, Wallace has the best average finish of anyone. His Daytona 500 track record thus far has been pretty solid. His first outing in 2018 also resulted in a second place finish with 2 runner-up finishes at Daytona as well as a win at Talladega. Bubba is always a driver to watch at the super speedways.
On the outside of row number 7, another driver heading into their sophomore season back with Front Row Motorsports, it's Todd Gilliland. Expectations were mixed heading into 2022, but the general consensus is that Todd did a pretty good job in the 38 last season. He snagged a top 5 and 2 top 10s and stayed out of trouble for the most part. Despite this, he's apparently not going to be full-time in 2023, which has fans a little bit puzzled. Regardless, he finished 33rd in last year's 500, but one of his top 10s came at Talladega in the fall. So keep your eyes on the 38 this weekend.
Unlucky number 13 has in fact produced 2 500 winners, much to the joy of this man. In theory, this will be the final Daytona 500 for 2014 Series champion Kevin Harvick. The closer was victorious in one of the most spectacular Daytona 500 finishes in history in 2007. And after grabbing 2 victories last season, he is proving that he will not go into retirement quietly. Superspeedway racing has always been a bit boom or bust for Happy Harvick, but he does have 3 superspeedway wins and 8 top 5s in the 500. Even at the age of 47, don't be counting out Kevin Harvick.
Starting in 12, right at the summit of Mount Underdog, you'll find the driver of the Spire Motorsports number 7, that is Corey LaJoie. LaJoie has had some pretty decent results in one of the most underfunded cars on the grid. The pseudo super speedway at Atlanta last season in particular was where LaJoie really shone bright. In the spring, he finished a career-best 5th, even doing it in style, crossing the stripe backwards just for fun. When they returned in the summer, he led a career-high 19 laps and took the white flag battling for the lead before the supervillain and least popular driver Chase Elliott moved him out of the way, after which LaJoie crashed and finished 21st. Corey has 2 top 10s in his 6 Daytona 500s, and I think he would probably trade his 19 laps led in Atlanta last season for leading lap number 200 on Sunday.
And just missing the top 10 starting spots in 11th. The 2021 Daytona 500 winner is looking to get back to victory lane, and his name, Michael McDowell. Superspeedway racing is about being in the right place at the right time, and McDowell was able to finally get it done after being close so many times. In 11 500 starts, he only has 3 finishes outside of the top 15, which is pretty impressive. In all, 5 top 10s for McDowell in the Great American Race, and he is looking to join some elite company on Sunday with his second 500 victory.
Alrighty, here we go. 44 of the 64 winners of the Daytona 500 have started inside of the top 10. So there's a pretty good chance that your winner on Sunday comes from these 5 rows right here. Let's start with P10. Despite being one of the all-time great super speedway racers, Brad Keselowski has yet to put his name on the Harley J. Earl Trophy, but not from a lack of trying. He finished close behind Jimmy Johnson in 2013 and Dale Jr. in 2014, and had the winning move bagged in 2021 before a block from his teammate Joey Logano was swiftly followed by a sweep of the leg from Michael McDowell to seal his fiery fate. And for much of last year's Daytona 500, Bad Brad looked more like a bull in a china shop. While his time as an owner has just begun here in his second season at Roush Fenway Keselowski, he knows his days as a driver are drawing to a close, and the 2012 Series champion wants to put at least one more trophy in his case before he's through.
In 9th, after grabbing that long-awaited second career win at Bristol, Chris Buescher has some momentum heading into the 2023 season. Buescher's 2022 Speed Weeks started great with him winning his duel last year, but it eventually led to a disappointing 16th place finish, all things considered. In fact, Buescher's Daytona 500 track record is pretty rough. 4 DNFs in his 7 starts, but the other 2 unaccounted for finishes were a top 5 and a podium. Nobody can deny that Buescher knows how to work up through the field. He just doesn't necessarily have the results to show for it.
On the outside of row number 4, the most popular driver on the grid is Dawsonville, Georgia's Chase Elliott. The 2020 Series champion is riding consecutive top 10 finishes in the Daytona 500, the former of which was a runner-up finish in the explosive finale of the 2021 edition. Chase has certainly proven himself handy at super speedway racing, but while he has wins at both Talladega and the newly configured Atlanta, he has yet to win a points-paying cup race at Daytona. Maybe Sunday is the day he becomes the 42nd driver to win the Great American Race.
Rolling off in 7th, often the bridesmaid, but never the bride for Ryan Blaney. YRB has runner-up finishes in the 500 in 2017 and 2020, and would have finished either first or second last year if it weren't for a late block from teammate and eventual winner Austin Cindric in the Tri-Oval. But still, 4 top 10s in his 7 Daytona 500s thus far, including leading the most laps in 2018. Plus, going without a win in 2022 has Blaney all fired up. He may be the one throwing wild blocks on the last lap for the win this time around.
Just missing the top 5 starters, the reigning Cup Series Rookie of the Year and the most recent winner of the Daytona 500 is Austin Cindric, who will be looking to be the first driver since Denny Hamlin in 2020 to win back-to-back Harley J. Earl trophies. Cindric made all the right moves in the closing stretch of last year's race to bag his first and so far only Cup Series win. Despite the big win last season, he may be an underdog still heading into the event again this season. His overall stat line didn't wow last season. He had just 4 top 5 finishes in the 2022 season, but 3 of them came on super speedways, including a 3rd place finish when the Cup Series came back to Daytona in August.
And on the inside of row number 3, the most clutch driver of 2022, Christopher Bell. With his back against the wall several times, C-Bell kept finding ways to advance further and further into the playoffs before eventually falling short in the Final 4. Still, he proved that he may be the top guy at Joe Gibbs Racing going forward. His first of his 4 career wins came at Daytona, well, the Daytona road course, I mean. His career record at the Daytona Oval has been less than stellar. In his 6 Daytona races, 13th is his best finish in the August race in 2020. He scored a top 5 in the 2021 Fall Talladega race, and that has been his only superspeedway top 10 so far. It could be a big weekend for Seabell to break out on the high banks.
The winner of Thursday's duel number 2. From Tampa, Florida, still driving for Stewart-Haas Racing despite the announcement that he was retiring at the end of the 2022 season, it's Eric Almirola back for more. Almirola was one of the dominant drivers of the 2018 Daytona 500 before his dreams were crushed with less than a lap to go. Outside of that, he does have 2 top 5 finishes in the Great American Race, the best of those being a 4th in 2017. His race win at Daytona in 2014 was rain-shortened, but his win at Talladega in 2018 was utter dominance. So take your pick between those two.
The winner of the first duel on Thursday starts on the inside of row number 2. The man that got 2 in 22, the reigning 2-time Cup Series champion, is Joey Logano. Perhaps the most aggressive driver in the field. It feels like it has been a while since Logano's hyper-aggression has led to anything other than him being wrecked out of the superspeedway races. Still, it's impossible to argue that he is anything other than one of the best to ever drive on a superspeedway, with 4 superspeedway wins, including the 2015 Daytona 500. Maybe Logano will follow up his second championship by winning his second Harley J. Earl Trophy.
And on the front row of the Daytona 500 for the second year in a row, it's young money Kyle Larson. At the age of 30, there aren't a lot of things left to accomplish for Larson, but you could argue that the Daytona 500 is next up on the list. The 2021 Series champion has been close a couple of times. He was up front for quite a bit of the later portions of the 2017 500, but ran out of gas with just a couple of laps to go. But Larson's superspeedway record overall has been mediocre at best. He has a career best finish of 4th last April at Talladega, and in his 17 career starts at Daytona, despite 3 pole positions, he has a best finish of 7th on 2 separate occasions, and an average finish of 22.6. which puts him in the bottom 10 of starters in this year's Daytona 500. But all it takes is one race to change your perception forever and immortalize yourself amongst the company of champions of the Daytona 500.
And with his 6th consecutive front row Daytona 500 start and 3rd 500 pole, it's front row Alex Bowman. It's a fitting nickname for Bowman, despite the fact that he seems to hate all the nicknames that have been coined for him over the years. Only 1 win for Bowman last season, who sat out 5 races due to a concussion. And while Bowman now has the all-time record for front row Daytona 500 starts and does have one of the best average finishes of anyone in the field at Daytona, he only has 3 top 10 finishes at the world's center of racing, and none of those have been in the 500 itself. Maybe Bowman will make history on Sunday by finally bringing one home, and someone in the Fox booth will coin a nickname for him that he'll actually like. One of those is more likely than the other. That is the starting grid for the 2023 Daytona 500. We want to hear from you. Who do you think is going to walk away with the Harley J. Earl Trophy on Sunday?
Be sure to comment your pick below and hit subscribe for all of our NASCAR and iRacing content here on Turn 200. Until we meet again, it's Tommy.
And it's Matt for Turn 200. And don't forget to join us for our NASCAR Weekend Recap Series, Recap 200. It comes out on Mondays following every NASCAR race this season. Enjoy the Great American Race, everybody.